Hi, it's Corey,
And I'm Kyra. Welcome to Above the Bar.
where every week we have conversations and libations with a legal twist.
So, about 4 or 5 years ago, we passed the bar, and here we are with you guys talking about current events and giving it to you from a lawyer's perspective and also sharing some of our favorite libations, something else lawyers like to do.
Something else we like to do. So, Kyra, tell us.
Yes.
It's spring. We're ready.
Yes.
What are we enjoying today?
So today, like Corey mentioned, in light of spring, we are enjoying a lavender lemon drop. So it's a little twist on the traditional, and it's great for the summer. It's really simple. Your traditional lemon drop, but just add, instead of regular simple syrup, you add lavender simple syrup. So, voila.
And it's a fun twist. And if you are a drinker of lemon drops or
You'll
any
love it.
martinis, you know that they get to the business.
You'll love it. It's like a little subtle aroma of lavender.
Yeah.
So it's really good and refreshing. So check it out, as you should do all of our cocktails. And let us know how you like them. Tune in and send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, or even send us an email. We want to hear from you guys. Let you know how you're liking the cocktails that we're putting together for you. And for ourselves, too.
Okay, definitely for ourselves. So we definitely hope you enjoy. But don't forget, if there's something you want to see, let us know. We might try to incorporate it in our show. I know we had a couple people reach out and say, hey, I want to see this. I want to see a French martini. I want to see this and that. We try to deliver it to you and give the best twist we can find on it.
Yes.
And I needed a twist this week because it's hump day, but it feels like, I don't know, maybe it's the transition from winter to spring. Maybe it's just that my allergies are going bananas. But today has been a weird day. And it didn't help that I saw a very odd video, which gets us into our first topic. Today I'm scrolling through Facebook, minding my business as I normally am, and I saw a video of someone going off, and the title of her blog or her video blog or her commentary was like, they are taking land from white farmers in South Africa. She was very mad about it. And that was the title, so that automatically made me want to click and say,
What's going on?
What's going on? Why are you so mad? So right now in South Africa, if you're familiar with South Africa, they have had long histories, long battles with apartheid, and just coming in and declaring that for whatever reason, black people were inferior in their own country, and it set off various laws that were meant to keep black people and white people apart from each other, but also took valuable things away from black people. And in 1913, the apartheid law, took away the right for black people to own land.
Right.
So they took away the right and then reapportioned this land to white farmers who still own it today. But in this video, this lady was saying, hey, you're saying these people are, stole the land or are thieves and, they just own it now. They kind of got it. How can you just take land away from them because the plan is to take it away without compensation? But it kind of goes back to a little something called how'd they get it?
Exactly.
How you get it?
So let's kind of start with what's just going on right now. So they filed for a motion. Their parliament has filed for a motion for, like Corey mentioned, for these farmers to get their land taken from them and then given to the Africans who they say are despairingly not given the right to own land there. And so this effort is trying to attempt to even out or just give back the retribution to those who had their land taken from them in the beginning. And like you were about to go into, the land was not theirs to begin with. The white farmers. It was taken from the black owners originally, or the African owners, and given to them. They didn't pay for it or anything like that. So this is an effort to flip that and give it back to them. So for this lady to be like, well, that's not right. It wasn't right to begin with. And Corey, you can speak to this as someone who's in real estate. If the title is faulty at any point in the chain, guess what? No matter who you got it from and you thought it was legitimate, it's going to go back to the person who legally had the right to begin with.
It's why we have a little something called title insurance in America. Because insurance really just ensures that if someone has to defend your title, if they're going to go to the title company, and the title company will pay for the suit to defend your title, your right to own the property. But it's the same in American law. If there was a defect in title, if it was inappropriately taken, then given to you, someone stole the title, whatever it is, someone could come back and reclaim their land. And in this case, the government is doing it, but no, you wouldn't. They had programs where they compensated to the tune of $100 million. Obviously, that can be very expensive, But the problem is that there was a serious problem in how the land was seized in the first place. So I mean, my concern whenever I see a video like this, one, as a real estate attorney, I'm like, I mean, you know, when something's wrong with your title, if there's a defect in your title, that carries with the title, because in real estate law, you can only give what you have. So you can sell it, somebody may have bought it, but if I bought a defective title, it stays defective. And you have to cure that defect. But the bigger problem is that if your concern is not equally that this land was stolen, then you don't have a right to talk about who's stealing it now. If you can't go back and be like, well, it was stolen, and what has been done to give people, you know, whatever they was stolen from them back, and you're only concerned with the fact that white farmers now have to deal with the disparity, then your perspective is off in the beginning, because in 1913 this land was stolen from people. And 1913 was not that long ago, and we have to remember that apartheid just ended in South Africa in the 1990s. So, you know, trying to pretend like this was an ancient issue and oh no, what happened? The wealth disparity in South Africa, as in most parts of the world, is tremendous. So 90% of wealthy landowners are holding, you know, 90% of the land held is by 10% of the landholders.
And this is obviously something that the parliament, that their government believes in. The vote to pass the motion was like 241 to 83 or something like that. So obviously there is a big governmental push behind this. Even the president was saying that he's ready to put things in place to expedite this and speed this process along to return this land to who should be the rightful owners, and kind of balance out the disparities in poverty and home ownership or land ownership that's going on there. People who are opposed to this are somewhat tuning into what has happened in Zimbabwe, and that they did a similar kind of governmental adjustment and took land from white owners and gave it to the original African owners. But the problem was that they did not have proper resources or tools in place to make sure that that land was then owned by people who could maintain the vegetation and the food there. And so that did have some impact on their economy and their exporting and things like that, because the food wasn't being produced at the rate that it had been by these farmers who knew what they were doing. So just hoping that as this does phase out, they have things in place so that they're teaching people how to properly tend to that land and make sure they're still producing what the economy needs to still thrive.
Well, I think it's important to remember that this is not just, okay, they up and decided this. They tried several programs.
Right, yes.
I mentioned that they started buying back land, $100 million worth of land from people. You want to sell your land, we're going to redistribute it. So they bought back land. They also had programs where they were doing kind of shares. So if you were a worker on the land, they were allowing for what they call, I think, black and white ownership, so that you could sell a portion of your land to the workers who were working the land. So they tried several programs before.
Which is a very good point.
But they haven't seen a dramatic impact when it comes to land ownership. So of course you have to empower these people to begin to work the land. But ownership of it is very important. And even if they choose to outsource, then they have the right, because land ownership, with it being a finite resource, is important. And you having the ability to own something that can't just be recreated. You can, how money works now, you can make money, you can make jewelry, you can make a lot of resources, but land is not one of them.
Exactly.
So South Africa, I think Africa gets depicted as just this, oh, yucky Africa. Africa is a beautiful place, a very rich country, and especially South Africa, which has some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. You know, you have to remember that it is very resource rich. And so the fact that it was stripped not, 100 years ago, and there haven't been major strides in really making it even again, or not even, because let's face it, it wasn't theirs to begin with. So, I mean, we've seen it in different contexts, even coming to America and people talking about reparations here. So I think it'll just be interesting as it outlines, but let's cut the crap. It wasn't their land to begin with, and unfortunately, if somebody gives you a defective title here and in South Africa, you have an opportunity to defend your title, but chances are the person who has a rightful title owner gets that property. It's the same way in America. It's why you buy title insurance, and why should it be different anyplace else? So why should that be an outrage that people who were stripped of their land are being returned to it?
But you weren't, and I'm assuming that she wasn't outraged with the fact of apartheid and the impact that it had on.
And it just ended. in your lifetime.
Exactly. So definitely something that we'll be keeping you abreast on how that rolls out in South Africa. But it does make me it does kind of, of course, with land being given back to its rightful owners, it does make me think about reparations here for not just blacks but Native Americans as well, and how the UN made a recent statement within the recent couple of months that they believe that the U.S. should give reparations or retributions for blacks and Native Americans. I think that they'll do it though.
Don't think they'll do it.
The fact that the UN, thought that, so just something that will definitely keep you guys abreast of what's going on.
And I think just talking about a real live, fact-based conversation about race relations always does well, because then when we move on to something more serious, things that we see in the States, we can have a conversation in truth about the history of what the tensions have been. So that's true in South Africa, and we've just seen in a recent shooting in Sacramento that there are just some they're unnatural, but prevalent preconditioning to what they feel like people do, threats that are perceived, that are incorrect, that we have to address as society so we all can feel safe, right?
So let's talk about Sacramento. So there was a shooting, was it yesterday?
Yeah, I think so.
There was a shooting yesterday in Sacramento where a young man was in the backyard in a home that he shared with his family.
In his backyard.
That he shared with his family, and he was back there minding his own business, was on the phone or had a phone in his hand, assuming he was on the phone talking to someone, and out of nowhere, he was gunned down. For what? Because I thought it was a gun in his hand at first. Oh no, not a gun. Wait, maybe it was a crowbar. Oh no, it wasn't a crowbar. It was just his cell phone. So this is crazy. Apparently in the neighborhood,
all those facts, and you forgot one important one. He was gunned down by the police officers that are meant to serve and protect.
Yes. So apparently in the neighborhood, there was someone who was breaking in car windows or this, that, and the other, and there was a helicopter that was around in the area that had seen someone in the neighborhood and said, "Hey, this is where he's at," and directed the police to that person. Somehow the police ended up at, I'm spacing on his name right now, but they ended up at the victim's home, came to the backyard, to the family who was in the home, so that they did not hear any type of warning or direction from the police to the victim, and shot him several times, 20 times, saying that they assumed that there was a gun in his hand. What was, to me, one of the craziest comments that I've heard after this was the mayor of Sacramento said that although it is tragic to have someone lose their life so young, I'm grateful that my police officers were unharmed.
Oh, he gonna pay for that.
What? That was a direct quote.
He's going to pay dearly for that statement. But let's say this: being a police officer is a dangerous job.
It is.
And there's definitely parts of it that you have to be afraid. You're risking your life. Certain police officers, some police officers, I don't believe that's their role, but some police officers are risking their lives. But we have to begin to set the precedent that life is more valuable than things. I don't care if he was breaking in people's stuff.
Yes.
If no one's life was in danger, the response should not be, "Oh, let's shoot him."
And yes, it was night, but I'm sorry, do y'all need night vision goggles? Do y'all need, where are y'all taking y'all vision tests? Because there is no way that you mistook a phone for a crowbar, and then a crowbar for a gun, and then a gun for a phone. Like, those are completely different objects with completely different shapes. But somehow to make up for your story that it was all the same, and you had helicopters who were hovering over and followed this person. How did you get from where that person was seen to where the victim was actually slain at? Like, that just doesn't make sense. So they are going to give the video from the cameras from the police officers. The police officers in the helicopters are not required to give their video footage. They're saying that they do want to collaborate, that they are going to give it over. But something in the timeline and the mix of the directions of this person being slain, and then the fact that you were in the home and that's talking with the grandmother of the boy who was slain, and not once did you tell her what happened to her grandson. She had to look outside for several hours. They're talking to her. She had to look outside of her window and see his body in their backyard. Like, on top of insult to injury, you just completely have no respect for this man or his family.
So, I mean, we'll see how these facts, come out, but there has to be something, because let me say this: if I'm in my own backyard, not doing anything wrong, and police come to me, I'm going to be waving my hands, and I don't know what he was doing, right, but you would No one's gonna be like,
especially if they gave no warning of who they were or what they were doing or anything like that. Like, I don't know if these were in plainclothes cops. I don't know, but the fact that you gave no warning and just showing pointing a gun, and the fact that the crazy thing another thing I saw was that they tried to show in the news article that in the house next to his there was some broken glass and some other things and some aluminum. What does that have to do with anything? Y'all are just trying to pull something to try to say, oh, that he was a criminal or he did something that's completely irrelevant to the fact that he was in his backyard with his phone and was shot 20 times for no freaking reason other than ignorant cops. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. And you know what else it goes to? Could there not have been someone who would, if you thought he was really that dangerous and he wasn't paying attention or there was no warning, that you shot him in his leg or something like that? Like 20 shots means that
for some car vehicles that were broken into.
Well, for non-life, dangerous. No one should have felt like you're sneaking up on somebody. Oh, you think he has a weapon? Well, let's take this out. Let's do something. Let's stay hidden. There has to be a better plan than everybody start shooting a lot.
Yeah.
Don't know investigation. Yeah, because the natural thing is to say, well, he might be dangerous, but the natural thing on the other side of it is that, oh, the cops are out to get me. So both of these things become a natural sick cycle of you have to take the same precautions, and we've seen it time and time again where somehow miraculously people are able to, the Parkland shooter was just walking down the street. Now, it was proven he killed 20 people or 17 people, and you're able to, no one's afraid. He has semi-automatic weapons
on him, exactly. And
why aren't you afraid of this?
And you just hit it on the head in saying that, oh, he's dangerous, so we must shoot to kill, instead of let's assume that maybe we're wrong. Like, even if you feel like he has a weapon, there is a chance that you could be wrong, so why not? I don't even want to say shoot. I know we say tase, but apparently that's just completely out of the window now. I don't know what happened to that being an option. But like you mentioned, shooting to disarm, like what happens to that being an alternative?
When the question, and this is the point, if it's a cigarette, if it's what are you doing this block, if it's you think someone stole something, that should not give you the right,
to kill,
officer or otherwise, to kill someone.
Egregiously.
That becomes something that has to be taken to court for the court system to determine their innocence or guilt, and that's it. And so if we aren't allowing the court system to adjudicate the innocence or guilt of the people that are murdered, then we have to allow them to adjudicate the officers.
Exactly.
It has to get past the grand jury. A pool of their peers should decide if their actions were justifiable or not.
And I know that there is that recourse of taking the officers to court, but still, like, that will not bring that boy back to life. That will not comfort his family in that life that is now gone. And I guess, okay, when there's like the first one or two, like, okay, these officers need to go to court. But when it's the number that we're at now, that's when we're like, okay, we need to seriously look at what is going on, and we need to seriously address this from an internal perspective and fix a lot of shit that's wrong.
Well, and so it's reckless. 20 shots should be reckless. And to me, I don't want to hear that they were placed on administrative paid leave.
Oh, they were, though. You already know. They were.
Right, but 20 shots should mean something reckless happened. I don't care what the circumstances were. I don't care if it really was a gun in his hand. It's 20 shots with a group of officers. We should say something went wrong, something was mistrained, and we have to stop what you're doing because something went drastically wrong. Completely
wrong. So I'm listening. I'm hearing what's going on with this, and I have in the back of my mind the officer in Minnesota who shot the Australian bride-to-be, and how he's on trial for third-degree murder and manslaughter, and how we're like, it's not looking too good for him. And I'm just looking at that scenario being a man of color shooting and killing a white woman, and seeing so many other black men or just black men or women of color shot by a white person, and the same effect. Yeah, we know we have a couple here and there, but the track record holistically is drastically unbalanced.
Well, we have a really not easy. All these things are very difficult. but we have a comparison at hand because we had a bomber that was going around Austin.
Yep.
Placing bombs in packages
for several days.
Killed several people, injured others. Not sure of the rhyme or reason to how he was deciding who to send these packages to. But several people died. I think there was even an explosion at the FedEx carrier unit. And to be honest, he pretty much killed himself because they were in chase. They found where he was. They were surrounding him, and he blew up his own man.
Exactly. They did find a recording of a confession. However, like you said, there was no rhyme or reason as to who he chose, why he chose, when, where, what. Like, there was no real clarity to that. So hopefully in the days that come, there's some type of understanding that we can get as to what was going on and why he did what he did. He was 24 years old in Austin, Texas. So
and seemingly very, not scary. But this is a terrorist act. He was randomly sending, or not random, maybe very specifically.
It's interesting
so,
to use that word.
Yeah. Oh, I'm using it. It was a terrorist act. But when the cops tried to apprehend him, they followed his car. This man has bombs. That kabloom. I mean, that's a bomb seems it has to be scarier than a gun.
Yes.
If you got to that point of suspicion with him, you're following him because you think he's a person. It is also probable because his last bombing was with a wire trap or wire.
Right.
So it's plausible that he has enough bombs to blow all of you up.
Exactly.
So wouldn't you want to be further away, be more apprehensive about apprehending him than apprehending someone who's in their backyard?
So you're not using their words.
Yeah,
and
so, not a terrorist.
Of course, in the media, with regards to the victim who was shot 20 times, they tried to bring up the stuff in the neighbor next backyard who had nothing to do with him. But yeah, with this terroristic act that was in fact terrorism, they said, oh, but there was no terrorism mentioned on his recording, so we're not labeling it as a terroristic act. Really? It is what it is. I don't care if it's white, brown, whatever. If it's a white man, guess he's capable of terrorism. I know a lot of Americans don't want to face that, but it is a fact. You need to accept that. Like, I just don't understand why they. I don't understand it, but I know why they don't.
Definition of terrorism.
Right.
It is
the perceived definition. I think.
Well, it is by definition of the words, because I think words are very important.
Yes.
The word terrorism is doing exactly what he did.
But I think a lot of Americans, white Americans, have a perceived notion of terrorism being someone from the Middle East. If it's not someone from the Middle East, then it's not really terrorism.
The Unabomber. He's a terrorist.
I'm sorry.
There's a million circumstances, or these are acts of terror, and certainly, I'm sure everybody in Austin. Not only do you not want to open a package, you don't even want to get close to it. You're like, ooh, no, I don't want that. Who said that? No, leave it there. That's for the mail carriers, people receiving mail.
There was a real life fear of this going on there, and even I talked with my dad who was considering moving to Texas, and he was like, "Yeah, we were thinking Austin, but not anymore." Like this wasn't just something that was, oh, there's a high crime rate going on, or oh, this act happened. No, there was a series of bombs going off that people had no clue when it was going off, who was the intended victim, or anything like that. So, like you mentioned, you don't want to go anywhere near packages, opening anything. And I can only imagine working for, FedEx or something like that. Like, you leave home seriously praying and saying goodbye, I love you, because you don't know if you're coming home that evening.
So I just think in just the basic facts of these two things and seeing how it's handled, law enforcement has to be retrained. And we have to begin a conversation. Not that we don't think, we're saying all law enforcement is bad. I have several members of my family who are in law enforcement. I love them. I think they take, the weight of the world on their shoulders every day when they decide to go to work. That being said, we can't look at something and say it can't be improved just because we're afraid of what the perception it is for these officers. Right. There are good officers and there are officers, I'm not even going to say bad, that are not trained properly. Some are bad. But most, if they are in the situation, aren't trained properly to identify threats and non-threats. Just the same reason why I don't feel it's a good idea to have guns in schools. It's very different. It's very different to say, do this when you see this and do that when you see that. And then you have to deal with the internal things that have been going on with somebody's mind their whole lives. You're not starting with a blank slate, follow the instructions, do this for A and do this for B. Because we've seen time and time again, when these two things are applied, they do this for A, and 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 it just is a whole wide array. And then we're just saying, okay, well, police officers put their life on the line, and so anything they do, we can't look at. No, we have to look at it.
And even if there is a perceived threat, like you mentioned, there's still no reason to shoot 20 times. So still understanding, okay, how to act when there is no threat, how to act when there is a threat, and how to address the level of threat that you are faced with. So I'm not a police officer. My hat does go off to those who do put their lives on the line, but there is there is definitely a lot of improvement that needs to happen across the United States to make sure that these people who are in a position or a role to protect are in fact protecting everyone at a just rate, and not just those who they perceive are innocent or non-dangerous or should be given the benefit of the doubt, but everyone. My heart goes out to those who have lost their lives or family members, particularly this gentleman yesterday in Sacramento.
Yeah. Super sad. We hate to leave you guys on a sad note, but it's happy because guess what? You should go make this drink. You should go make this drink.
If the conversation got you down, just make this a lavender lemon drop. I'm sure it'll raise your spirits back up.
Yeah. And, part of it is all about the conversation. So we hope someone grows and learns and changes from this or not. Get in on the conversation. Text, email, don't text. Email, comment, go text. I was just lying about that part. Anyway.
But no, we do want to hear from you guys on Facebook, Above the Bar Podcast, Above the Bar PC on Instagram, YouTube, Above the Bar Podcast, Instagram, sorry, iTunes, and Google Play Music. We love to hear from you guys, and cheers until next time.
Cheers, guys.